Good morning, everybody. I'm here with the amazing psychic Liz Cross. How are you doing today?
Feeling amazing. How are you?
I'm doing great also. So today we're going to do a mind probe with Freddie Mercury, which I think is pretty cool. He's definitely one of my favorite vocalists in rock for sure. Let's be honest, he's my favorite vocalist in rock. Absolutely, hands down, he's number one. You
I
know,
did not know that.
Yeah, like he had been his voice was so good that in his live concerts in front of millions of people, it could be on a record. Whereas other vocalists may take many takes to get one perfect vocal, he could do that live every time, no problem. Like it's incredible, like his accuracy and how, you know, amazing his voice was. Um, so yeah, let's bring in Freddie Mercury. Do you have him here?
I do, and he's spinning around, dancing.
Is he? Is he spinning
Yeah,
around with the microphone stand in his hand?
yeah, yeah, he
Awesome.
is. And he's so excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited too. I get to talk to a rock star today. So,
Wow.
all right, Freddie, are you ready?
He's ready. Yeah. Now he's with
Okay.
someone. He's
Is he?
with
Who's he
he's
with?
with a few people. He has a soulmate
Okay.
in spirit with him, a male.
Okay. Is that Jim Hutton?
Who's that, Jim Hunt? Yes.
Okay, that's who he incarnated in the previous lifetime.
Oh, who was Jim Hutt? I'm sorry, I don't
That
know too
that was
much
his
about
that
him.
was his boyfriend in the last lifetime. The one that was at least, around with him when he was in the limelight.
Okay. All right. Well, they're together.
Cool. All right. So, for those that don't know, sadly, if you don't know who doesn't know who Freddie Mercury is, maybe there's some young people listening. So he was the frontman for the band Queen, and they were a huge rock band back in the 80s. They put on some of the biggest concerts in the world, and their music was, a blend of rock and opera, um, and really, pop music as well. And they were really good at crafting anthems, right? All of their most famous songs, they're anthems, right? We Will Rock You, um, We Are the Champions, Bohemian Rhapsody. Those are anthems. They're iconic songs that will be around forever. And they challenged many different things in rock and roll. Like Bohemian Rhapsody was the first song that it should have never made it to the radio by radio standards. It was way too long and didn't fit the mold with other pop songs, but yet it is, it's hands down one of the best songs to ever go down in rock and roll history. So, they were a big deal. And they I think at the time they were playing the biggest concerts, like the Live Aid Festival, and I can't remember when that was in the late 80s. That was one of the biggest, festival concerts ever. I don't know if the record's been broken now, but and you can go back and watch those concerts. They're incredible. So yeah. And let's see here. So let's get into some of these questions. So we have some questions here for Freddie. And for those of you that don't know, he was from England, but he was not born in England. He was from Zanzibar. So he immigrated when he was, I think, around 17. And then he enrolled in art school in England. That's where he met his bandmates there while he was in art school. Um, but let's ask some questions to Mercury. So because he grew up in India in Zanzibar, that was quite a different culture than where he moved to. But I'm wondering about his childhood memories. What were there any big memories that shaped his his sense of being maybe different or destined for greatness? Did he ever have any of those moments in his childhood, like foreshadowing?
He always wanted to be a star. He was always singing. He actually used to get in trouble for singing all the time. I feel like he went to he had a very strict upbringing wherever it was, very, very strict.
I think he
And
went to a boarding school.
oh, okay, that would make sense, right? Because he's showing me he would get in trouble all the time. he would get lashings, right? Whipped for singing and being disruptive. And he wasn't really, were you interested in boarding school? No, he hated it. He says, I hated the boarding school life. Um, and he just didn't want to be there. Do you appreciate the education you got there? No, he hated it. Every
Mm,
minute.
yeah. And so he was always, he always had that. He knew he was going to be a star in a way, and he had that great voice and early on, and probably that passion. And it was just kind of waiting to come out. Did he feel like because his childhood was so hard and repressive that it supercharged his abilities later on to be a great performer?
Mm. Did that supercharge your abilities? Yeah, it was all about freedom. Everything's about freedom. Even in the music, it's about freedom.
Yeah,
Uh,
that feels like it does feel like that.
it
Yeah.
does, doesn't it? Like
Yeah.
yeah, the songs now when he says that, I would agree with that. Like, what is more freeing than singing like what you said, anthems as loud as you can in a crowd of people, right? That's very freeing. And that was what was the driver of behind his music, behind his singing, behind everything he did. It was always this working towards freedom. I mean, he had been in many boxes and many traps throughout his lifetime. There were a lot of social expectations of him. He says arranged marriage was another part of it. And his parents didn't really know what to do with him. He was really an outcast. And they just kind of gave up. I mean, they were supportive in the end, but they realized that there was nothing they could do to control him.
Sure.
So they just gave up in the end.
Sure. And so with his heritage being Parsi and also his faith being Zoroastrian, how did that influence his understanding of his life's purpose as a young boy, or was it, again, something that he didn't like and kind of rebelled against?
Was that influencing? No, he rebelled. He
Right.
completely rebelled against any organized religion.
Mm,
Um, he wasn't interested in any of that.
right. Okay. Okay, so moving to England at the age of 17, I'm sure that was quite a shock, like a culture shock. What was the hardest part of leaving his roots behind, or was it? Was he very happy to leave his roots behind?
Wait, was it hard to leave your roots behind? I mean, there were a couple things that he missed, but not really. It was very freeing again, to go to England. Now he did experience quite a lot of racism, he says,
Yeah,
and he had to deal with that. But overall, he just ignored those people. He was used to people criticizing him, making judgments about him, critiquing him. He thought at least he could be more free in England, and he enjoyed the British people very much. He says, I was always a Brit at heart. I was more British than I was anything else.
right. And that's it is kind of typical sometimes when you have immigrants coming over, they really value sometimes the freedoms that you might have in the new country that sometimes are taken for granted of. So that's not unusual. Was there anything specific that he was excited about when he was coming to Britain? Was he that he was anticipating?
Was it anything specific? Well, the music, especially in the time that he was living in, Britain was on fire with regards to the music industry. It was all good things were coming out of the UK. Legends were being made, and
Right.
people were very supportive of artists and singers, bands, creativity. It wasn't shunned. I feel like where he came from, there was nothing but put downs and just, you need to do something else, something that is, more respectable, or something that is more makes more money. It was very difficult to break out of that. And of course, when he got to the UK, he just there was no going back. They could not tame him.
Mm. So, as I understand it, I'm not an expert at the history of Queen, but I just kind of know a few things. I remember watching documentaries way, way, way back. But I do remember that he went to art school, and that's where he met a few of the like the founding members for Queen. So before he met those guys, was he writing music at that time? Was he being creative in that way?
Before you met them, were you being creative? Were you writing music? He was always writing music. Always, always. He was unstoppable. Now, I did not know that they had met at the Ealing College of Art. Wow. So in West London. Um, and is that where you all, yes, and they just gelled immediately. It
Yeah,
just came together, he said. It just like it was he said it was beyond just coincidence. This was something cosmic. This was meant to be.
right. So along those lines, then, is has he incarnated with any of the other members of Queen before?
Have you incarnated? So in this lifetime, did you incarnate? I mean, have you known them in past lives? Oh, they've had many past lives together.
So particularly Brian May, who is the other kind of star out of the band. Do they have a long history in reincarnating with each other?
With Brian May, did you? Oh, they're the best of friends. Best of friends, soulmates. They've known each other for many, many lifetimes, and they always join forces to be something bigger than themselves.
Interesting. Can we get another example of a time that they were bigger than life, to use the phrase?
Yeah, let's see. So they've gone into business together.
Okay.
He's showing me like even back in the day, they decided that they would go into this stone making business to make houses. And this was somewhere, is this in India? No, this is way back in the Middle East, and
Hmm.
they were making houses together, and they had designed, or they'd come across, did you design it? I mean, this like brick design, and they figured that they could make bricks, but how did you stick the bricks together? And then people would purchase the bricks from them. And how did you stick the bricks together? Well, they used mud, but the mud was like cement, and they always made a lot of money out of that.
Hmm. Were there any past lives that were creative like this one, that were involved with some sort of art?
Were there any past lives between you and Brian May that were creative? Oh yes, yes, they were painters in another lifetime. They've been musicians in other lifetimes, singing, and they've always been outcasts. Like whatever they have done was always cutting edge to the time period,
Hmm.
like new music. And busking on the street. Were you busking on the street? Yes, they've been to Paris before. How many years ago? Hundreds of years ago, and they were busking on the street when, otherwise anything that wasn't religious music was seen as blasphemous. But they didn't
Hmm.
care, and people enjoyed the music.
Hmm. So could we say that it's like a positive kind of recurring theme? Like I know that we most of the time when we're focusing on past lives, we're looking at trauma, unfortunately. But can we look at it from the other, the opposite angle, like the light side of that? There's people that incarnate together not to recreate trauma, but to recreate, beauty or art or something like that. Is that also a common thing
Is
in
that
our?
also a thing? Yes, but most people don't focus on that.
Well, I
Most
think this.
people are focusing on the negative and not the positive. Like but there's a lot of soul contracts that everyone makes that are to for the benefit. Now the benefit may not be huge like he and Brian May, right? But even if it's just a knowing or something that pulls you out of some tricky situation, that would have been a positive. So yes, we do have many positive past life or lifetime contracts. We just don't dwell on them. We just
Mm,
always think of them as a lucky escape or a lucky break. You don't sit there thanking your lucky stars for this person too much instead of dwelling on the negative. He doesn't
right.
like to dwell on the negative, by the way.
Right. So along that line of thinking, then, is it that so in this example with Freddie and Brian May, they've had many lifetimes together that were positive, artistic, creative, successful. Does it work in the way that those lifetimes were kind of preparing for this past lifetime, where they were able to use those skills that they'd built up throughout the lifetimes to really, take it to the world stage?
Did you ever did you know when you were making this contract with Brian May and the band, did you know that you were going to be that popular? No, they didn't know. They couldn't comprehend how popular they were going to be. It's only in hindsight.
Okay. I think my question more of was like overall for everybody, like in the sense that we have the traumas, right? That kind of, and then we eventually hopefully break them and you move beyond that. But on the opposite side of things, if we have these positive things that build momentum, right? And then they culminate in something like this, is that the way that it works?
Is that the way that it works, that we build momentum? If the soul chooses to do so.
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of souls just, they may only do this for one or two lifetimes and then they decide to move on. He says, we don't, we always stick together. And that's not just for he and Brian May, that is for all of the band.
Okay. Okay, perfect. What was else was I just got, sorry, I got off topic with the questions, but I kind of got interested in this topic.
No, it's good. I like it.
The other thing I wanted to ask along those lines is that, when Freddie and the band had a lifetime like this, they really had a big impact worldwide, like a positive impact on people's lives through their music. What does that look like on the other side for them now that they're looking back in hindsight? Because they could really
So,
see it.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No problem. Do you want me to repeat that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so for Freddie and the band, looking back now in hindsight, like you said, I mean, they had such a huge positive impact on the world overall, I would say, with their music. Did they realize that, like, just how much of an impact does Freddie realize did he realize and appreciate how much of an impact he had when he was here on the Earth plane?
He had no idea.
Right.
He had no idea when he was here on the Earth plane. Um, no, I don't know too much about what he was into here on the Earth plane, but I feel like he was out of it quite a lot.
Yeah. Right. When he was, at the peak of his time, I think maybe, yeah, he was self-medicating, I believe. I mean, I don't know all the details, obviously, and I only know what I've heard. I don't know the truth. But we can ask Freddie. I mean, when he was at the top of the world, or at least perceived, in his career, what was he struggling with at that time?
What were you struggling with? Were you using drugs? Oh, all the time. I feel like he was medicating 24/7. And why were you doing that? You know, he was addicted. And he is saying that it was a form of control, almost like the managers or producers or somebody
Mm.
got him to try this or he got hooked on it. And it was a way for people to control him. Don't forget, his whole life, everybody had always wanted to control Freddie Mercury, right? And they
Yeah.
could not do it.
Yeah.
Everybody. And this was him being medicated, him being a drug addict was a way for them to control him.
Yeah.
Freddie, do this, Freddie, do that, sign up for this, sign up for that. Not only did he, become wealthy, but he made a lot of people that were in the business wealthy, right?
Yeah.
And this was the thing that goes on in the business. Apparently, he said, they want to control the money maker so
Yeah.
that they're making more and more money. They're siphoning money. The money makers are too out of it to see, to recognize that they're being stolen from, and that's what they wanted from you.
Right. So his handlers were, yeah, and that's a common story in the music
Mm,
industry for sure. Especially at that time. I mean, same I think with Jimi Hendrix and other notable figures in rock and roll for sure. Um,
yeah.
so
It's a shame.
it
It's
is a
a
shame.
shame that they give them into, get them into highly addictive substances so that they can, basically they make them the circus monkey, is what
Right.
he's saying.
Right.
I'm asking him, but were you struggling with being gay? No, he had come to the fact, he knew that he was gay, right? He knew all of his life since he was what, 2 or 3 years old. He knew that he was gay, and that didn't really bother him. Um, Other people had a problem with it, but he didn't have a problem with it.
Mm,
His feelings for men or the same sex were so strong he couldn't be anything but gay, is what
mm,
he's saying to me. I'm saying, but do you choose that in every lifetime? No, this was the first lifetime he chose as a soul to have that experience of being gay, and he really enjoyed that experience. Um, Although it was newfound territory for him, um, it was hard for others to take it around him. A lot of people didn't even want to deal with him, but his talent was so admirable, they had no choice but to deal with him, he says.
right.
Um, so I have to ask him, do fat bottom girls really make the rockin' world go round? He thinks that's hilarious. I do too. Do you like, but see, he had a relationship with a female, I believe, didn't he?
Yes, I believe so. Her name was, I have it here in the questions, I think, Mary Austin.
Oh, Mary also, Mary. Oh, he loves Mary. He loves her. As soon as I said that name, his hand went on his heart, and he's just like, oh, like I love her. But this is something more. This is like a motherly, sisterly love, right? This is someone who genuinely cared for him, someone who appreciated him, someone who nurtured him. Now that he said that's one thing you didn't get from dating men. Like he was always expected to be the nurturer.
Mm,
Um he liked She was like the mother he never had, is
uh,
what he's saying to me.
yeah, that's beautiful. Um, I'm not sure if she's still alive as well. Did they reincarnate together as well?
Ooh, yeah, she's still here on the airplane. Do they reincarnate all the time? She's been his mother in many lifetimes, actually, and
Interesting.
his best friend, his sister. She's his confidant. Like, I feel, the other ones. So with her, it wasn't about sex, right? Because he wasn't, were you sexually attracted to her? No, he wasn't. He just did what he thought he was supposed to be doing, or he always, with her, um he wanted that level of nurturing, but from a male, and he knew that he could not have all of that in one person, right?
Right.
So what he's saying is he hated that, to leave her, and he hated that he hurt her. I mean, he still loves her to this day. She talks to him regularly. I feel that she has been in contact, he says, with many mediums, and has channeled him before, and he always tells her how much he loves her.
Sure. So I have a question about then his soul family. Is his biological parents his soul family?
Ooh, are your biological parents your soul family? You, yes, in this lifetime, but have they been in a past? No, they're relatively new.
Okay.
They're new for that lifetime. What did you need from them in that lifetime? He needed the ability to be free, and he needed them to just give up on him.
Mm,
They just got to the point he was going to do his own thing no matter what. He loved them, but they were to educate him. They were ambitious. They did install that level of ambition within him,
mm,
and to never give up on your dreams. But of course, it was always like a different dream than what he had. But no, they were new for that lifetime. Are you going to make a contract with them again? No, no, he isn't.
mm.
He will be making a contract with Mary.
Interesting. Okay. And she's gonna come back as his mother?
Yes, that's what he hopes. Now it's going to be a long while before she goes into the spirit world. She's going to live a very long life.
Right. Okay. Can we look forward even? Has he written up his contract for the next one yet?
No, he's still waiting for the others to come up. I
Gotcha.
feel Brian May's still on the earth plane. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's still waiting.
Yeah.
He's still waiting. He are they more your soul family than your biological? But no, so it's like the biological parents or the ones that raise you are the soul family. But these guys are soulmate. I mean, he has a lot of soulmates, and all of these people are very instrumental in getting him to where he needs to be. Now, in the next lifetime, I'm saying, do you have any ideas what you want to be? Now see, we've heard this before from souls. Well, in the next lifetime, I want to be a politician. I want to go heavy into politics and into business. So are you thinking of not coming back as an artist? No. He's thinking more in terms of like AI, like doing AI, building something. So that's going to be the new artisan. Uh, he's saying it's going to be what you can build and what you can create with AI, like how pretty you can make something, how visually appealing. Um, so you're not going to be, no, he doesn't want to be here with this AI music. He likes grassroots, homegrown, raw talent. He doesn't want to be part of the AI music scene.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So he feels like he could still be creative. Um, yeah. So kind of how I think of it is that there's going to be like a new kind of artist that emerges where their artistic talents are augmented by AI.
Hmm.
Right? So where some people might be, on the whole, maybe AI lowers the bar for people to be creative, or not lowers the bar, but suppresses creativity in a way because we're so reliant on it for everything. But there will be those outliers that they're going to be creatives no matter what. They're born creatives, and therefore AI is just going to augment their abilities and make them more powerful. Um, so is he
He's He's agreeing with you on that. That's exactly right. Are we going to be dumbed down because of the AI? Yeah. See, again, another confirmation. Consciousness, even though we're going to have a lot more information at our fingertips, the critical thinking because of the AI in generations to come will take away, our expansion of consciousness. We're going to start going on a decline. It's going to be, well, the computer says yes or the computer says no, right?
right? Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Let's see here. Let's pick up with some of these questions I have here. So, Bohemian Rhapsody. So that's, one of the most famous songs for sure. It's going to go down. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be a famous anthem for, it's even when AI becomes, AI music, I'm sure this song is going to still be relevant. So when they were writing that song, did he feel like he was channeling something with that, or was it like a slow kind of slog putting it together?
Did you feel like you were channeling something? I feel Brian was more of the songwriter. He had a lot of the ideas.
And
Do you feel?
what does Freddie
Mhm.
feel like his role was in the creative process with Queen?
What do you feel like your role was? Your role it was in. He was the front man. He was the one. He was the electric one. And even now, as he's standing here talking to me, he is like he can't sit still, right? I've never had a spirit just constantly like move, and I'm like, good grief, you're just always like on the move. So much energy.
Mm.
What do you think your contribution was? It really was the to get the audience involved.
Yeah, that electricity to kind of bring it all to life,
Mm.
right? Okay. Um, all right. So, and to speak to that, on stage you were very electric. But off stage, when you weren't embodied, like first of all, did he feel like he was as a rock star playing out like a persona, or did he feel like he was just really just being himself?
Were you playing out a persona? At times he was very theatrical. Or do
Right.
you think that you were just playing yourself? I mean, it was himself, but a bigger version of himself, right? It
Mhm.
was the most electric version of himself.
Gotcha.
But a lot of times, he was out of it on stage as well.
Sure. Okay. Um, so when, you were very, bigger than life on stage, but off stage, was there, how was he feeling off stage? Was he feeling just as electric off stage as he did on stage to some degree?
Were you feeling just as electric off stage than on stage? No, he knew he had an addiction or several addictions. He actually he wanted to leave this life. He wanted calm and peace. He didn't know how much longer he was going to be able to keep this going.
Right. So that's a question. And he didn't feel like, how was he handling the stardom and all of that? Not very well, I guess.
No. And it was people always wanted him to be on stage even when he was off stage, and that was a lot of pressure. He was a train wreck in life. I mean, I don't know much about his private life, but it's a train wreck for
Mm.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You're always expected to be on, right? Turned on. Kind of almost similar to what's that famous comedian that passed away? Oh my God. Uh,
Robin
yeah,
Williams.
Robin Williams. I
Mm.
feel like that could be maybe similar or no? Does he feel like he was similar to Robin Williams in that way?
Yes, and everybody wants you to be the big star all the time. People are around you not because they like you, but because they just want to be seen with you. They just want other people to know that they are with you.
Yeah.
These people were not loyal to him. Only Mary was actually loyal.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so let's see here. So your partner Jim Hutton, who we mentioned earlier, he's with you there now, I think. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what was it that made you, or did you feel like in that lifetime you were soulmates?
Oh, yes, they're always soulmates. Now, this the first lifetime that you were both a same-sex couple? Yes, but in previous lifetimes, Freddie Mercury has always been the male, and Jim Hutton has always been a very meek and mild female.
Okay. I was going to ask that as well. Like, uh, on average, his previous lifetimes, was he more male and masculine, or was he a female ever before?
Very rarely was he female. He was also an alcoholic in past lives,
Mm,
and he gave Jim, or in his previous lifetimes, his wife, a very difficult time.
mm, okay.
Basically, in his own words, pissed away all the money. I have to say what he says, right? And would leave her with the kids, and he was a wreck, and Mary was his mother, didn't know what to do with him. Like, nobody ever knows what to do with him. That's a big problem. And actually, he doesn't know what to do with himself.
Right.
He ends up creating this person through all of these experiences, he's telling me. But once he gets to this particular level, he doesn't know what to do with himself.
Mm,
He still feels he has no sense of purpose.
mm. Interesting. But looking back now, does he feel like he really did have a purpose? Looking in hindsight now?
You feel like you had a. Yes, in hindsight, yes. And his purpose was to make people happy. I mean, those songs are happy, aren't they?
Yeah.
They make
Yeah.
people happy. They make people feel as if they're alive. And
Yeah.
and that's what music should be all about. It's connecting you to this inner sensation of, it's great to be alive. I'm alive. I'm here. I have a voice. I can feel this. He says that was his purpose, but he didn't know at the time that was his purpose. I mean, that was the purpose for others, but I mean, he's never managed to be fulfilled or feel as if he has a sense of purpose. I'm saying, what do you think is behind all of that? He does have elements of self-hatred, which most people do, right? But there are really big elements of self-hatred there.
Mm. And so because he was, he what, even though maybe he didn't realize it in this lifetime, he did kind of fulfill that purpose to make others happy and to have this massively positive effect on the world and other people. Does that affect his lifetimes going forward in a positive way, or is he still stuck in the, not realizing his worth?
You think, are you still stuck in it? No, that's still a karmic loop. That's still a loop. And again, he'll be creating things with, hopefully, Brian May. He goes, I know he'll sign up. He can't refuse me. With Brian May and other members, yes, they'll create, like, so they're looking at some big AI business structure, like billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar business structure. It's going to make people's lives better, much better. But again, he won't feel, he'll still feel that void on the inside. And anybody who feels that void on the inside, you have to know that that is coming from lack of self-love, right? So this again is going to have to be something he needs to work on. Time and time again, especially in our CTT group sessions, we realize that once you get to the spirit world, that's it. Your ability to process, your ability to expand your consciousness, to overcome soul contracts, to be a better version of the one that you are, better than the day before, that ends when you get to spirit. It's all about plotting and planning and arranging and making contracts in the next lifetime. So again, he has left with many unresolved issues, and a lot of it has to do with self-hatred. The fact that he could never get out of this addiction, or many addictions, was huge for him. Are you going to be an addict in the next lifetime? Yes, he has to be. He has to be until it's resolved.
Mm.
I
And
have to
what?
ask him a question.
Yeah, go
Sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
Do you know about CTT in the spirit world? He goes, of course we do, Liz. And I'm like, is George up there with you? George is the creator of CTT, for those of you that don't know. Yes, I met him and George, and they're shaking hands. And I'm saying, well, can you not find some way to do CTT in the spirit world at all? No. See, you have to have it's imperative to have the physical body, and really, it's the body of a human being, right? So that we're making conscious mind decisions to do the bilateral tapping to shift our energy field. So you guys, there's no option for doing CTT in the spirit world. No, no.
Well, you don't have emotions either. So that's what you're doing. You're moving that energy through, emotions and trauma. So
Mm.
I guess that's required. It's required to be down here to do that. Um, okay, well, does he feel like you will just keep playing this out for a long time still, or does he think it's going to be resolved soon, maybe in the next lifetime?
Think that you'll be able to resolve it in the next lifetime? He doesn't think so. He doesn't know how to resolve it.
Hmm, interesting. Okay. All right, let's get back on track with some of these questions. Did you ever meet someone in this lifetime, whether you knew them or they were maybe a fan or stranger, that ever gave you kind of deja vu, like a reunion from like a past life or something like that?
Ooh, did you ever meet someone in this lifetime as Freddie Mercury that gave you deja vu? Yes, that soulmate, Jim. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Um, so he was a cat lover. So he had some cats while he was here on the Earth plane. Um, how important was that relationship to him looking back now?
Very important because they never expected him to be anything.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you mentioned this earlier. He mentioned this earlier that when he came to this country, he was an outsider, right? Like he had usually been in all his lifetimes. And in this lifetime, right, he was an immigrant from another country. He was, as a young man, how kids are. And he was also gay. So, and in that time, it wasn't as accepted. So did he ever tap into a past life to draw strength to get through all of that adversity?
Did you ever tap into a past life to get? No, he didn't even know what past life regression was.
But he always had that ability to just kind of, keep going and just, yeah, that those people were being mean, but he knew that that's just how it was, and it wasn't going to hold him down. So he already had that kind of defiance from a young age. Is that like a characteristic of his soul?
Is that a carry? Absolutely. And he's going to have it again in the next lifetime. Now, that would explain a lot to me as to why he'll end up being a billionaire in the next lifetime, because those billionaires at the top are completely unstoppable. It doesn't matter what you say to them, how you treat them. They're just those types of people. They're going to run all over you. You're not going there, you won't get in their way. Is that you? Yeah, that's absolutely him. And he's been like that for many, many, many lifetimes.
Right. Okay, so on a sad note, when he was diagnosed with his terminal illness, um, how did that affect him? Was that like completely devastating, or did he have courage? Do you think he was going to overcome it, or did he know that was he at peace with that? How was he feeling after that?
He feels like a fool. He feels like he's been had. And I
Mm.
said, why do you feel that? He doesn't, he's like, I don't know, he must have slept around a lot. Um, were
But
you because I'm showing like hookups everywhere. Why do you feel a fool? Because he should have been more careful. He was very careless with sex. I feel like a lot of it was drug fueled sex as well, he's saying. And it's not something that he says he's proud of. And I'm like, yeah, but a lot of people ended up, with HIV and they didn't understand it. It was all very new. He goes, oh, that doesn't make it right, Liz. And I'm saying, okay, but you know, you didn't know. A lot of people didn't know. Um, he's saying he knew. I'm saying, what do you mean you knew? Well, he knew it was a possibility. There was talk that was going around that there was, something in the community, an illness, but it wasn't really identified. He said, but long before it was labeled as something, there were rumors and there were talks about it. And but I said, did you know that you needed to use protection? No, he didn't know that. But you see, again, this is a common problem that a lot of souls have, where they place a lot of self-blame on on themselves, even though they weren't in full possession of all the information and all the knowledge. Hindsight is a wonderful experience because now you understand it, but at the time, but I find this with souls. In fact, I did a CTT session last week with someone who his soul constantly like beat himself up because he didn't have all the information, all the knowledge that there is to be had out there. And these souls are really hard on themselves. So are you saying to me that you are, what are you going to do in the next lifetime? Is this an unresolved issue? Yes, this is very much an unresolved issue. This is about being reckless, about being careless, he says. And again, in the next lifetime, are you going to be a homosexual? At the moment, he says no, but he's going to be like one of those adrenaline junkies that takes unnecessary risks, climbing rocks without safety gear, and just engaging in risky behavior. So why do you do that? Why would a soul just continue to engage in risky behavior? What's that jumping, Mr. Photon, that some of these kids do? It's awful. It's like they're jumping from building to building. What is
Oh
that?
yeah, like oh my God, it's got parkour.
What? Yeah, that thing. I'm like, who in their right mind would do that? That is so dangerous. But see, he's pointing at himself. He's like, me, I would do that. But what is it that causes that element of recklessness in the soul, in the being? And again, it all boils down to lack of self-love, lack of self-worth.
Right. Okay. Um, were there moments when his persona, his very electric and flamboyant persona, was he aware that that was a mask that he was wearing when he was in public,
Where
or
did
does he
he
feel like it
mask?
was?
I mean, it actually became someone he hated.
Hmm.
He
Interesting.
created this persona or this version of himself that he loathed.
Hmm.
And I'm saying, why did you loathe that person? What did you think that they were you? I mean, the more he became popular, the more it wasn't really him. The more he started playing to the crowds. And again, it was this addiction. He was, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? We were trying to mold you into the thing that makes the most money. And he became a version of himself that he hated. So in his mind, in his consciousness, in the end, like that person was not him.
Right. So everybody, and I kind of understand. I understand that because if you create this persona that everybody loves and adores, but you don't feel that it's genuine, you don't feel that it's really you, you don't feel that it's really representing who you are, then you can resent that because people love not you in a way that you feel like you want them to love you and not the thing that everybody wants you to be or everybody assumes you to be. So I can understand that for sure. Um, okay, let's see here. I lost my space here. Where was I here? Okay. So, did you ever have dreams or visions of anything to do with your past lives or any of the things that we talked about earlier where you had these successful lives with the group?
Yeah. Have dreams or visions? No, not really.
Did he ever have any sort of like, well, he always wanted to be a performer, but did he ever have any dreams or visions of what was to come, or was it all kind of fantasy that he was creating in his mind and he manifested it?
Did you ever have dreams? So he liked admiration. He liked the fact that people loved him, but just because other people loved him doesn't mean he was capable of loving himself, is what he just said to me.
Right. Yeah. Um, So, did he feel that music was kind of his sanctuary in a way to kind of escape, some of the negative aspects of his life?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, it was his sanctuary.
Hmm. Okay. And so at what point did it ever become, we just talked about, okay, at some point the persona that he created, he started to loathe it. At what point did that change? Did he ever fall out of love with his music because of the persona that he had created or other
Did
people had
you
created?
did you ever fall in love with your music? I mean, yes, it became something that he loathes, but in order to keep that energy, I mean, I think this is more addiction based, right? Because it got to the point where he couldn't perform without the substances, and yet he didn't want to be on the substances, but he still had to perform,
Right.
and it let go of a lot of his inhibitions. He's saying it became this vicious cycle of I have to perform and I have to be high to perform because that's, how he did it. Not in the beginning, but certainly it was quite early on, though, he's saying. And what are you saying to me? So it was like, oh, everybody expects me to be this. So I need to be high and on substances to be this. But yet I can't deal with the come down. I can't deal with the withdrawals. He's saying so that's where the self-loathing came in. That did you loathe the music? I mean, in the end, he hated all of it. He hated all of it. He hated the addictions
Right.
and he couldn't break free. Isn't that interesting? Somebody who their soul is all about freedom, freedom, freedom. And, he gets in this boarding school trap and, they're wanting to mold him into being something he doesn't want to be, and he's constantly vying for his freedom. And then he finds that through music. Then he comes to the UK and he's still going for freedom, and his music is freedom. Everything is freedom. And yet he sabotages himself through addictions to trap himself. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is very interesting. It's like he couldn't escape that archetype, even though he, personified it through his art.
He didn't let other people trap him with their ideas of who he should be, but he ended up trapping himself. And again, this substance abuse, now I don't know the history behind it and how maybe the media have portrayed it to have started, but it really was like the handlers influencing him They wanted him to be high.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he didn't want to be at that point.
Did he
But it was
realize what was going on when he was here consciously?
no.
Yeah. And that's why, right? That's probably why you could. It seems like he may have had cognitive dissonance because he's singing about freedom, yet he has in his personal life these addictions that are trapping him, or these really the people that have, have manipulated him, right? But he couldn't see the manipulation on that side. It was obvious probably to him that the boarding school was manipulating him, and maybe even, the things that his parents wanted him to be, that was, people trying to control him. But in this instance, he couldn't see this particular controlling force. So maybe that's why.
Is that is that one? Yeah, he didn't realize. I mean, on a soul level, he created that trap for himself, but I'm saying, so why on a soul level would you create a trap that was so difficult to get out of? And the soul is very ambitious. And again, this is a very common thing that we find with these souls. They believe that they're stronger than the earth plane substances, right? And then when they get down here and they're exposed to trauma, they're exposed to these substances, and their brain is hijacked, their consciousness is hijacked by these substances, by addiction, and now they can't get out of it.
Sure. Okay, so when he did pass away in the early 90s, what was he feeling at the end of his life?
Like a failure.
Yeah. And why did he feel like a failure? He couldn't see, all the positive effect that he had on the world. That he was clouded to that.
Did you, why? Why did you feel like a failure? Because he let those who actually did love him down,
Mm,
and he allowed those that really didn't love him to use and abuse him. And he had driven the good people away, and he
yeah.
was surrounded by darkness and
Wow.
the bad people, the other users. He treated this gym very badly, very, very badly.
Mm. Okay. So was there any, so when he did actually pass at the time of his death, did he have like a last thought or feeling, uh, or anything specific that he was thinking about before he passed?
Did you have anything specific about? Yes, and what was that? It was, I'm actually going to leave this world.
Was that
And there was nothing he could do about that.
so was he at peace with that feeling?
No, because he caused so much hurt.
Hmm. So he was feeling that was he's feeling that with regret.
Major regret.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay, so when he did cross over, were there any notable people that he met? Any souls on the other side that he got to meet that he was excited about?
There any other souls on the other side that you were excited to meet? I feel like it's somebody in Mary's family, either a mother or a grandmother. I feel like there was it a grandmother for you? No, a grandfather. There was an old school friend from boarding school that was there that he had lost contact with a long time ago. Are all of your lifetimes usually cut short? Most of them. Most of them are. And the last few of these lifetimes where he was out of here because of alcoholism.
Yeah.
Um, and what was that leaving your body like? Did you actually see your body? Did you look back? Yeah. And I saw how battered and how poorly I had treated my body. And what did you say? Like I was very abusive to that body. I just used and abused it. I didn't treat it well. And
Mm.
how did you feel about that? Well, there was nothing he could do. He said, well, he just kind of gave a shoulder shrug and left.
So
Nothing
looking back,
he could do.
go ahead.
No, it's like nothing he could do at that moment. It's all too late. It's too late to try anything. Your body's done.
So looking back now from the afterlife, what was the overall lesson as Freddie Mercury, do you think that you came here to learn?
That he is still a very self-destructive person.
Yeah.
And he has large elements of self-destruction within his soul, within his being, that he
Mm.
can't seem to shake.
Mm. Can he at least look back now from his position and see again like the huge positive impact he had? Obviously, in his personal life, he was clouded by all of this negativity and darkness. But looking back now, does he feel like his life he had meaning and he accomplished great things?
The meaning was that he gave meaning to others. So the music gives people a reason to live. And that was the meaning.
Right. Okay.
Even
Um,
today. I mean, what do you think about people singing your songs today? And he puts his hand on his heart and he's like, yeah, I love that.
yeah.
There's no better. Do you feel that in the spirit world? Not at the same magnitude that you feel here on the earth plane, but it's still recognized. Will you know that when you go into your next lifetime that you were Freddie Mercury? No, because that's the mind wipe.
Will he come in contact with his own music?
Yes, it will still be very prevalent.
Eh,
People will rewind the clock back to the time when music was actually made by creative people and not computers.
Right. Um, and will it when he does come in contact with the music, obviously he won't know because he had the mind wipe, but is there some kind of like energetic exchange that's going on there when those types of things happen?
Is there some sort of energetic exchange when those types of things happen? I mean, no, not really.
No. Huh? So
Not
for
really. No.
so for instance, if so I've heard some people say that like if I were to try and go to a place that I had in a past life, would there be some sort of, you know, energy that I'm tapping in with or something special that's happening? I don't know how to say it, but
No, you're right. You're right. Because, there are times when people do go to places and they're like, this feels like home to me, but I've never been here before. This all feels very familiar. I've
Mhm.
had that happen. And when I looked into a past life, it made sense, right? Because I had actually had many lifetimes in that particular area or region.
Mhm.
No, you're right. Yeah, I mean, will you have this feeling of familiarity when you listen to a Queen song? He goes, I hope so. I hope so. It's sad. It's sad that we're not allowed to remember who we once were.
Mhm. Yeah, it is sad. I was hoping that there was some sort of like unconscious, energy thing that'll go on at least anyways, but
Well, we're trying that. We're doing a lot of experimentation with the CTT at the moment. We're trying to create things that will circumvent the mind wipe, putting as much information into the soul as possible so we can carry it with us, designing our future lifetimes, what we want, what we don't want, what we think was a crummy decision, and how to reprogram that energy that we've, injected and been forced to inject into the universal consciousness that breadcrumbs us. So I mean, let's ask him this question. will these things that we are doing with the CTT, first of all, do you wish you would have had access to them? And he says, yes, I do. And that level of consciousness. And I'm saying, well, will this be successful for us in the future? He says, extremely successful. Now, will CTT end up being a worldwide known thing? Eventually it will. And my biggest thing is, well, let's ask him this question. Do you feel that your music is more popular now that you've left the earth plane? No, I mean it's still popular. There are revivals every now and again. So do you think that it was more popular when you were, yeah, because he's saying I was the thing that made it popular.
Yeah. Again, the live show. Like obviously I never got to see Queen live because that was before my time, but still, it's legendary for sure. So,
Okay.
you know. Um, all right. So how what kind of message would he give now to those that are still living, based on his life that he had here as Freddie Mercury? Is there anything you'd like to say?
Is there anything that you like to say? Yeah. What was that? Be who you want to be, no matter what they say.
Mhm. And is there anything that is there any sort of like message he could give to people that might be, in the similar kind of resonance with his past life, his life? Maybe they were being persecuted, or maybe they're, being tried to being held down, or their creativeness being held down for whatever reason. Is there any advice that he has for any creatives out there that are in those similar situations?
Trust your gut. If
Mm,
it feels bad, it is.
okay.
And he knew that those people were bad for him. But see, here's the thing he's saying to me, they were also very instrumental in making Queen Queen, right?
Sure.
Making it
Sure.
big. They knew how to promote it, they knew how to sell it, they knew the right people to talk to get friends and people in the right places, paying and production and things like that. Of course. Now, that has changed significantly from how the music business is now. So let's ask, now that we don't really have need for these record companies, do you think our record companies going to stay? No. Our radio stations going to remain? No. No. See, this is the thing that's going on now. Record companies are becoming obsolete. People are publishing themselves. Do people need to be discovered? I mean, they only need to be discovered by the wider audience, but they can pretty much take care of that themselves. The video quality, like making videos and producing themselves, photography, stylists and things like that, sound, are all important, live shows. But as far as like just getting your name out there, all of these handlers, all of these people that sabotaged him and got him into this stuff so that they could control him, and so they were making the decisions and he wasn't really making the decisions. He said they needed me more than I needed them, but they didn't make it seem like that. I needed them to make sure I was always supplied with drugs.
Mm,
um but that's all changing. It's now about self-publishing. What about the book industry? Books are obsolete. Books are obsolete. See, I knew that years ago. I did a reading for somebody who was writing a book, and they are also an illustrator of children's books. And we got the information, this is pre-COVID, that hey, you can forget it because going forward, books are going to be pretty much obsolete. So let me ask this question. Are children's books going to be obsolete? No, books in general, children's books People still want children to read, so they are buying and engaging in children's books. It's a nice family time to have. I love reading to my children, but as my oldest one got older, we were listening to audiobooks, and we love that. We love that time together. Those will still remain, but all of this needing these publishers and things like that. So will children's books still need publishers? Yes. Um, but how do you market them now that, there's no bookstores? Before you would go to the bookstore, you'd go to the album store, and it would be like, who's hot? Who do you have to listen to? You would listen to the albums. You remember back in the day where album stores or record shops would have like showcases. They would showcase these new artists coming up. That's all gone. That's all gone. Book signings, lectures, book talks, all of that is gone. It is now onto YouTube. And will YouTube always remain the supreme platform going forward for people to artists, creators? Will that always? Yes, it will. Google and YouTube will always be the absolute supreme platform for anybody who wants to self-publish, right? If
Hmm.
you're writing a book out there, don't expect that people are going to buy it. How are you going to market it? Whereas before, these publishers would market you, these record companies would market you, these promoters. That's all changed. So is that industry gone? Yeah, pretty much. When will we see an end to it completely? Ooh, it's coming up very soon, 2030, 2035. You're going to see like the death of publishers, unless they're like educational, like university books and things like that. What about religious books? Oh, they'll always try and keep that mail going. He says it like he's like they're always going to try to keep that going as long as they can to, as he says, to make people subservient. There's always somebody who wants to control someone else. Do you believe that religion is in? Yes, he does. Religion does that. And do you believe that does music control people? It can control people. Do you believe your music control? No, his music was absolutely freedom all the way.
Mm. Yeah. Does he know when he might be coming back?
Do you know what? Are you coming back this century? No, 2130.
Oh boy. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bit far
I
out.
wonder what the place, we should do a look into the future. Like maybe break it down decade by decade,
Yeah.
but it's hard to get information because there'll be so many new things going on, and unless you can, like, the
Have
logical
a,
mind has to try to put an explanation to it, so that
we don't
makes
have any
it difficult.
reference. Yeah. If we don't have any reference to what the situation is 100 years from now, it's kind of weird. It's like us, Nostradamus trying to look ahead like 1,000 years, and he has no idea what the heck that really means, right? So yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, we should do that to every like 50 years or whatever, see what the general what's going on is, so we can get a reference for times like these.
Yeah, it's like we would be doing probes into, oh, well, what does the car look like? Well, and then we're trying to describe it, but maybe people are out of vehicles by then.
Yeah.
Maybe, we've got a magic carpet.
Yeah. Yeah, or
And
it looks like a magic carpet to us, but it's some new technology that we have no reference for.
yeah. Wow. He truly is amazing. I love your music, by the way. I love Fat Bottom Girls. Uh, I love it all. I mean, there's nothing better than listening to a Queen song, really, or any Queen. I mean, all the Queen songs. I think he's fantastic. I wish that he would change his mind and rewrite his future life plan. I mean, he's working on it, that he comes back to bring the music back. That's what we need. We need someone who's going to come trailblazing in and saying, you know what, I'm doing grassroots, and we're going to be big, and we're going to make more anthems, and we're going to be like worldwide huge. we're going to bring this feeling back again. I think that when he is planning to come back, there'll be loads of people creating AI. Why can't you come back and do that again? He's like, oh, that's kind of boring.
Yeah.
He's like been there, done that. He's
Yeah.
pretty cool to talk to. I would like to channel him again.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, that's all the questions I have for you today, Freddie. I'm so glad that we could talk to you. I'm also a big fan. You definitely inspired me for sure through your music, and we hope to talk to you again.
Yes, absolutely. Don't forget, Mr. Photon does have a tip jar listed down below if you're wondering where these questions came from. Mr. Reality, thank you. He gave us some questions. He's not back with us yet. Hopefully he'll be back next week. And he'll be back with these old time photos and things like that. But until then, Photon, we appreciate you filling in and doing these amazing probes. And there's a tip jar listed down below. So thank you.
Thank you so much.